the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
You're listening to the AVNation WAVEcast, and we're getting stronger together with Heather Sidorowicz. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our AVNation WAVEcast. I am really over the moon about this next interview that we're going to have. I'm here with Heather Sidorowicz, and she is the owner, president of Southtown AV. She is a 2018 Woman in CT Legacy Award winner. She is a senior board of directors. She is a mom to 2 girls. I mean, the list goes on. And she's a fabulous yoga zen master. So Heather, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. You give me way too much credit.
That's just the start of it. Like, I'm so excited. I mean, I feel like we've been, Twitter friends forever in the life of being on Twitter. And you're just always so exciting to see what you're doing. And you have such a positive energy and passion. And, to top that all off, to be, a female in a male-dominated industry as successful as you are. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really thrilled.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So tell us, so you're right off the bat, you're in Indianapolis today. You've been up since the crack of dawn, and tell us about what you're doing there.
I am here for a CDA board meeting. So we'll start with dinner tonight. New member orientation is today, and then tomorrow we'll have a strategic meeting, and Friday we have our official board meeting. And then I will also say that any opinions on this podcast are mine and my own, not CDA's. I have to say that. But here I am. And I'm actually the first female that was on the board since over 20 years. There is now, Melanie has now joined the board as well. And Tabitha, obviously a great female CEO, but I was the first female in way, way too long.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, how much you break the waves and everything within the industry. I just real quickly, one of the things that for our viewers and, that they might not understand the difference of when you talk about CEDIA, what I really was so fascinated about is, we have the professional side of our industry that is more, pro AV, it's more buildings, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also have our custom high installation side of the building, which is considered CEDIA and more around the consumer electronics. So you kind of straddle both if I understand correctly.
I do. Yeah. So in our company really did grow up as a residential company. But around that 2008, 2010 timeline, as you saw the crash of 2008, what we started to see early on at that time was the beginnings of a renaissance in Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm from. And having young children, seeing that made me think, I think that there's a possibility to come into the commercial industry. And what I underestimated at that time was how much people wanted a company that treated people like people, right? So they were used to audio companies that treated you like the electrician did. When it's there, I'm done, don't talk to me again, that's the end of our relationship, versus our approach where really the day you start using the system is the day our actual relationship truly begins. So we doubled in size. So things have gone very well in that place. And so today we're about 80% commercial and 20% what I would call relationship residential. So more of a consulting base where they come in and want music throughout their house or a better home network. So it's not a transactional sale, but a relationship sale.
Oh, that's awesome. And like I said, you're the president and owner of Southtown AV, which is just, absolutely phenomenal to be just a female business owner and then to have it in a male dominated tech industry. Tell us about that.
Well, the company was founded by my dad in 1984, and I started work with him in 2001. And not knowing anything, but just seeing others out there that I just didn't feel like were meeting the needs. So I saw another company put forth actually at that time it was a surround sound demo it was The Matrix, and it was the bus scene where everyone dies. And it was great for surround sound, and the men are like, oh yeah. Except I remember looking in the room, and there was like an 8-year-old boy who was just seeing everyone being shut up. And I thought, there's a place here. And it was really that kind of epiphany moment, and went back to my father and said, hey, I think I want to do this. And I really started attending every CD at that point, just huge thirst for knowledge, trying to find it anywhere I could, reading magazines, being part of that, which is another reason I wanted to be part of the board, because it was my, I felt like I grew up there. So, this is my moment, I guess you could say, give back. But yeah, so it's been, I bought the company in 2014, and, sky's the limit from there.
That is just like, that's like so cool. How do people, I guess it's not the question of like, how do people treat you as a woman owner, but it's kind of like a hard.
There are people who will still come in and they'll, they kind of do that quick glance and go, is anybody else here? Or I'll have people who call and I'll answer the phone, and because we're still a small company, and they'll say, hey, I have a technical question. And there's a pause. Like, go ahead, try me. There are those moments, but I think the best piece, like, you don't approach that with a chip on your shoulder. And I think we all do it in some way. If we have to all start to acknowledge that we do that, and that anyone can play these roles today. And most people, once they get beyond that, and once you kind of have to, show them that are great. It's rare to have an issue.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating to me, because it's like, consistently we kind of hear like over our industry, kind of to what you're saying is that, just a lot of times it's like it's hard to get the jump from people like in their youth into professional AV, whether it's on the commercial side or on the, custom side. And, having your dad, having a mentor like that, having like, somebody like a lot of, especially for us women, most of us grew up, having men as mentors. So, it's really interesting to see how women, are using that to leverage it to become incredibly successful.
It's how we treat each other, right? Early in my career, I had this opportunity to have dinner with a bunch of business people, but one of them was a female who in our local village, she's like one of the first females that's a trustee. And she turned to me and said, I just think that we all have to be kinder to each other. Women can be so wicked and competitive, and we need to lift each other up, which is exactly what you're doing. And so I praise you. We're looking to just be positive and lift each other up and take care of each other and be transparent and human and stop fighting. If we could just change that one piece, what a different world it would be.
Yeah, all over for everything, right? Yeah. No, that's really cool. So tell me about winning the 2018 Women in CT Legacy Award. That's just because that's just, they're a group, they do amazing things, and they do them like throughout the year, but like that is really an exclusive group of women.
It was very cool, and I didn't feel worthy of it. I still don't feel worthy of it. It's a legacy award. I also thought, in my speech I made there was, this is not the end of me. I promise to keep going forward with, my off-kilter voice. So the big thing, but it was awesome. The trip was the coolest part, to get a call from Carol Campbell to say, like, hey, you won this. We'd love you to come if you can. I had a friend fly in from California to be there, which was amazing. The whole evening was really like a Cinderella moment. Being on stage, my husband was there, out to dinner with some great friends of mine from the industry who came because they knew me, meeting new people. There was some great support. It was really a really great moment.
That's really cool. And, I'm just like, it's always like, I have like a million questions to ask you, but I won't take all your time, but it's, going to the different, like when you look, like going to the Infocoms, going to the CEDIAs, and going to sort of the CESs, which is where, that award show is, like, you've done it all, you know what I mean? Like, which is so unusual just for a professional to, let alone like a female having experienced it. So, tell us a little bit about your like different experiences at the different, trade shows.
What we already said, CEDIA, I kind of feel as this high school reunion-ish of people you liked. It's smaller and more intimate. Infocom is huge, and I feel still when I go there, I remember looking at Infocom I don't know, 8 years ago, and just looking at the classes and being so overwhelmed. I was like, I can't go to that. I'm not good enough to go to that. And really it's about, I think the whole thing is about looking at those fears and doing it anyway. So one day I just said, I'm going to go. And you book a plane trip and you go and you walk around the show floor, and then you fall in love with, because I think Infocom is I haven't been to ISE yet, but is the most visually stunning show. It's just amazing from that standpoint. And then you see all this great new futurist, the robots and stuff in there as well. CES is so big. It's overwhelming. So prepare yourself. The first time I went in 2000, I went 2 years ago, and I went 2 years before that. You have to be prepared to take a break at some point, because I actually felt it was so overwhelming. So many people. You really have to take some self-care into that too. I think the first, not last time, but the time before that, when we went, eventually I was like, I'm done, I have to leave. We rented a car. My husband was there. We drove up to Red Rocks and we hiked a little bit outside just to kind of regain that balance. And you have to look at it as the whole industry, the whole world, right? None of us know. Nobody knows. We're all trying to figure out this adventure together. And I think that when you realize that, you can fall back upon it and just realize that this is my one life and my one shot. So let's charge forward.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my experiences, are pretty similar to yours. I absolutely adore CEDIA. I mean, it's just walking around and being there at that, the annual trade show is just, there's so much camaraderie. Like you said, it's, everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody.
Really laid back, it's, everything is cool. And Infocom is a little bit of a middle, because when I went to CES, like you said, it's like, I couldn't, just me as a person, not even saying as a woman, but it was just, there was too much. You couldn't see
it. It's overwhelming.
There's so many people. It was just, it really, it took me back. You do have to be prepared. And I mean, as, talking to it a little bit as a woman, when you go, and I mean, especially not even just to these trade shows, but, some advice or some things, do you do anything different for your safety and for your travel? And, what advice would you give to women?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so I don't think I've been asked that ever, but I do have things that I do. So I do things like take a picture of where you park your car, which if you're driving somewhere, and just so you remember where it is, and it's on your phone. I take a picture of my hotel room number to avoid any issues later when you come back. I have a 2-glass limit. So I do partake in, a good glass of wine when I have the opportunity. But if I'm not in an extremely safe space, so if my husband's not there, if it's not someone I've known for 20 years, I will not drink, I try to two drinks, because you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. Now, I think luckily, even though we're male dominated, it's a bunch of geeks, right? And they're mostly harmless people, but you have to be smart at the same time and make sure that you're playing the game smartly. So, alcohol does terrible things like that. You have to make sure that you're safe. Those are definitely a few things that I make sure I do. I always make sure I have a phone charger on me, so that, my phone, I'm not out and about somewhere without a phone. I think we're much luckier today because we have things like Uber and rideshare. So if you ever got stuck, you can easily leave. You don't have to be stuck in any place. And my other piece of advice is, if or when in Vegas, take a cab, because the ride shares often lead you behind the hotel or down a dark hallway, and you put yourself in precarious positions. Just get in the cab line, you're around a bunch of people, and less chance of something happening.
Oh, that's great. That's really great advice. My other advice that I always give people is to learn how to change a flat tire.
That's a really good one. I can't do that.
Yeah. One time it was horrible. We were building a courthouse up in Northern California. And it was just one of those things where, the storms and the rocks and everything. And I would have been stuck in the middle of nowhere. And so the types of things that, women don't necessarily think are going to be as important to them when they're actually traveling alone. And, like you said, be aware of your environment.
Right.
Don't put myself in positions where I feel that I'm going to be the only person that's going to be looking out for my own safety.
Yeah. And we all know, we know that from a very young age when you hear the bells, get out. No one ever says this terrible thing happened to me and I had no idea that it was coming. They're always like, there's alarms going off, but I did it anyway.
I didn't listen to myself. Yeah, exactly. As an attendee there, one of the things that, I've been following it. I first wrote about Gary Shapiro and the CTA in 2012 when when he called the booth babes. That was when he, I actually felt bad for him because, like yourself, it's like, I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And, 80 to 90% of, men, women, and everything, I really think, like you said, we're all on this adventure together. So when I hear sort of, some of the things that make me as a woman cringe or sort of, I don't get angry about it. I felt more bad for him in 2012 because, he called, the thing about booth babes was, it was cute and it was irrelevant.
Right.
And so it seems to me like, we now have booth dudes. This last, at InfoComm, like, 2018, I was thrilled because it was like we had booth dudes, and it was like, that was just like fantastic.
Was that crush runs? The crush run ones?
No, I didn't. Actually,
them do it. They had like booth, like when you were going from one event to another, they had these beautiful women lined up, but then they had beautiful men lined up, and I'm okay. That's inclusion, man. That's inclusion.
Yeah, like we've really like I feel so grateful and just like excited about how far we've come. CES seems to be a little bit more held back. Now, I want to give them credit. It's like they're over 62% on their executive team is females. This year they launched a $10 million fund, and it's hard for me to like say that they're completely responsible for the industry sort of being where it's at, especially.
But they set the pulse for sure.
Yeah, well,
right? They're the only one that any layman, that any person on the street, there's a chance that they heard of it. If I say CEDIA, they give me a strange look. If I said InfoComm, they said, I don't know. But you say CES, people understand that. So they do have a responsibility for that pulse. I get interviewed locally on the radio because I either follow along or I'm there. That's because everyone, technology is very hot and interesting. So they do have a responsibility, whether they like that or not.
Yeah. And, I thought what was so interesting to me this year was they've come so far and they've sort of done so much, and they did try to make to their policies to the extent that I feel that, they can only be so responsible. They have tried to update, about what people can and can't have at their booths. But then this year they went out and they actually gave a CES Innovation Award to a female company, led company of like engineers, most amazing technology behind a personal massager, a sex toy for a female. And they went out and they gave it to that group and then they took it away. Yeah, so one of the things that's sort of interesting to me, just from the CES perspective in general, and what I said in 2012 is that it's not even so much about how they treat the women that's inside of their industry. It's that they're not recognizing the power and as well as the purchasing money of women and what they have to offer and the decisions that they make when it comes to especially technology in their house or, who's getting the iPad or these types of things. As a woman who's attended it and who's, sort of been there, what is your experience about, being an audience of who, high tech and consumers? Are they valuing women? Are they valuing their input? Or, are you just now struggling to not be a booth babe? I
think my answer is going to be a twofold. One is, no, I don't think they're valuing it. And it's because it's male dominated. I think really what we miss in all is that without women, you don't have perspective. I remember at CES 2 years ago, I think maybe it was Samsung, someone announced a washer or dryer that would email you or text you when it was done. I could care less as a super busy female. I can hear the bell ring from the other room. I need it, make my washer dry my clothes too. That would be solving the problem. But because the people who are creating it probably aren't talking to the women who are probably mostly using it, it gets lost. And I think that we see that over and over and over again throughout all of it. I think we see that also happen with speakers. There's an ego possibly that happens. So the speakers are, I'm a CEO, therefore I must speak. And men aren't always the greatest to give that point across. So I think that, I watched Sony's keynote, and anyone that's followed me for a long time knows I'm a huge Sony proponent. They did a terrible job of presenting because it's all the heads of the company who speak versus someone who can ignite passion within what that company has done or can and will be. I think, and as for the female, I think that sex isn't a dirty word, so we need to get over that for sure. And sex for females isn't a dirty word. They've had countless sex toys for men for a very, very long time. So it's ridiculous that they would then say, oh, no, this is offensive. Come on.
Well, yeah, they've given the other words to the award. So it's just, I'm the type of person that never sees, progress and success is not a straight line, but it was really unfortunate. I felt for them, to have come so far in trying to, really do take the steps and to show that they care about, moving forward to then kind of set themselves back, by actually penalizing, a female-led company. Now, what is it, you said you have two girls, and, it's a two-part question is, how is it that you do your work-life balance with that? And do you want your girls to go into technology? And, what are your thoughts about that?
So what I learned early, I used to think that my company and my children had to remain completely separate. And then I learned that that's impossible. So it's like, this is how you make it work, right? So my company, my headquarters is very close to the elementary school, so they can walk after school. I don't act like it's a bad place to be. They can come anytime they want. They love to come now because we've remodeled, and they think it's the greatest thing ever. One of my coolest moments for a mom was my 12-year-old brought her friend there to show off. And as for technology, I just want them to be happy first and foremost. So above all, I want them to do something they love and can find passionate in. But my 12-year-old's a builder. She could do Legos and build all day. That's great. And I think fostering those things are priceless. I sent them both to a Minecraft camp over the summer. They were the only two girls, and there was 25 boys, and they totally held their own. I was so proud. But it's like, we have to get rid of our own stigmas. We have to acknowledge and say, okay, sure, Minecraft, I might think that that's a boys' game, but if they like it, why not? It's not hurting, and they're building and in some way coding. Power to them. So yeah, I secretly would love to see them go in any type of engineering or STEM field, but it's happiness first.
Yeah, right. And they must, it's so nice for them to see their mom as a business owner and see their mom just killing it no matter what she does, and everything.
I was carrying it on in my pocket so the days I'm not feeling good. Thank you.
To that extent, what is your advice for a woman that wants to be like you? You've done so much, and it's not for everybody, but especially as a business owner or getting involved in stuff. What do you suggest to people? What do they do? And then what do they have to, consider?
You have to decide what kind of person you want to be, right? So transparency is huge with me. Living an honest and true life is huge with me. Feeling the fear, but moving forward anyway. I think that a lot of people think I'm too afraid to stand on stage and say the way I feel. It's I still feel afraid. You just do it anyway because you have a story to tell. You have something to give. I think the human factor is a huge piece of that we have to keep preaching. We, in the late 90s in work, we were about working all the time, and we then became burnt out and miserable, and the pendulum swung the other way. And even though we're in a more digital world than we ever have been, we're all craving human contact. So I think treating people like you'd want to be treated, right? These are things we heard since childhood, but we forgot somewhere along the way.
What's been the hardest thing as a female business owner? And I'm not even just necessarily as a female, but just as a business owner, what's one thing that you would tell yourself, back when you bought the company, oh my God, I wish I had done this?
I would tell myself that it all works out. So everything's going to be okay. That it's darkest before the dawn. So I went through some really, really tough stuff, some really dark stuff to get to where I am. And you have to acknowledge what is not your magic power. And you actually can hire that out. And there's always help out there. So reach out and ask. It's okay to ask for help and support. And there's so many people out there that are willing to give it.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Well, Heather, I know you have such a busy couple of days here ahead of you. So I won't keep you anymore. I was so thrilled and really appreciate all your, perspective and, expertise, telling us, what it is that we can do, what are some of the challenges that we have and, especially Namaste, right? You've always done that. How can people get in touch with you and how can they, with both Southtown AV as well as
my Twitter is myself, so that's kind of a fun way to touch base. So, which is how we met. So it's tech_chi, as in balance between life and technology. You can Google me. You'll find me all sorts of places. My company website is southtownav.com. A as in apple, V as in Victor. I'm on all the social platforms. I'm out there. And I think just to add just one more piece, I think if we could change anything, I think it's got to be from the ground up. So I remember looking at my husband, he had GQ and I had Real Simple magazine. So I thought those should be pretty equal. And his was about technology and things you could learn and how you could become a better person. And the woman's one, Real Simple, which was not supposed to be this way, was about you're not good enough and diets and eat less food and wear more makeup. I think until we can change that, why doesn't Real Simple have a tech article? Why doesn't Vogue have a tech article? Women are the ones carrying their phones and their technology also. And I think that we forget that. So if I could change one thing and put it out there, it would be to get to there next.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Well, you're doing it all. And it's, for anybody out there that, wants to see how, how to succeed, how to be a business owner, but also how, how to be a mom and balance it all. And you're a true role model for all of us women.
Thank you.
And, and you're so fun. You're so fun. You come up with all the most fun, exciting things to do and with the most positive energy.
It feels so good that you're out there. You yourself. What you've done and what you say and the way that you're lifting up, I cannot explain to you how much that means to me. And I know women across. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, it's and it's exactly like you said, it's together, it's just at the end of the day, it's just we just got to do it together. And it's we've got to be here for each other because the alternative is just, it's no fun. It's not nice and it's not going to get us anywhere. So it's
hashtag stronger together.
And, it feels good. It feels good to be good, and especially as tough as this world can be right now, is to try to stay positive and look for solutions. So thanks.
Yep.
Great. Heather, thank you so much. Enjoy your show. Stay warm.
Thank you, Jennifer. Be well. Thank you. It was so a pleasure. I hope next time it's over dinner.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, we'll go to ISC together next year for the first time.
It's a date.
One I haven't been to as well.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, and everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. So, talking to Heather, I'm going to go.
Okay, Sidorowicz.
Thank you. The CDO Board of Directors 2018 Woman in CT Legacy Award winner, president and owner of Southtown AV, and just an all-around amazing woman, professional, and somebody that you definitely want to know. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can check this out and all the other AVNation podcasts, news, and blogs at www.avnation.tv. Thanks.